Thank you all. Really excited to be here. My name is Anderson David. I'm one of the brand partnership leads at TeamSnap. We are a youth sports management and communication organization. If you have kids and you travel around for youth sports, you've probably heard of us. Daniel has two beautiful daughters, and he's talking about the cross experiences. So we are in 25 million logged in registered accounts across the United States and Canada. We really help with all the facilitation as it relates to scheduling, to rostering, team communication. We represent 200 plus sports, anything from debate team to dodgeball, book club to basketball, so we help with all of that. In addition to that, for brands, we help you connect with parents in a different, unique environment. In addition to all that, but digitally, we also extend it to on-field sponsorships as well. So what we're able to do is actually have you connect with those local communities and fund those teams and sponsor them and support them. And then part of those dollars actually go right back to the team to offset the astronomical cost of these sports.
It is astronomical, yes. And I get those teams from that invoices too.
I love it. So today I have the pleasure of introducing, we went through who Daniel Cherry the third is. But I guess the first question I'm going to ask you, how are you doing?
I appreciate that, honestly. I'm doing all right. We'll get into all the stuff that I'm sure you want to discuss. But I'm doing all right. We'll talk about why. Because I think many of us are marketers who've been through crazy times and probably testament to how left things can go. But I want to thank brand innovators, Anderson himself, and others, because the community that we've built as marketers has pretty much honestly got me through professionally, because we're all in this together, whether we connect or connected or not. So I'm doing well, and I appreciate the support of the community of marketers out there.
Absolutely, and that's applause worthy. But so Daniel, you didn't ask me how I was doing, but I'm going to tell you how to. So I thought I was doing okay until Daniel reached out and sent me his LinkedIn invitation. And turns out I'm woefully underachieving. We're about the same age, and this man's LinkedIn profile reads like the best absolute places that you could imagine. You know, he's been able literally to sit at the center of so many moments and subcultures that have grown to become part of things that drive the culture itself. Sneakers, basketball, gaming, I'm missing something.
So rock.
It's a rock. But this is something else on top of that. So it's gaming, it's basketball. So many things. I'll catch myself with that. But so moving on from that, I think I'm actually in the right place, and I think at the end of this conversation, I'll feel a lot better about myself. Because we're here to talk about motivation, we're here to talk about sports, we're here to talk about everything that's aspiration. We're here to talk about the next generation. And it's only fitting that we're here at Art Basel having this conversation, because sports is art, and a lot of things that you're creating is art, and they have a purpose. But before we talk about that, I want to talk mainly about the impossible. Not as sort of a definition of the word, but impossible, which is literally part of the brand attitude for Adidas. In 2004, Adidas adopted the brand attitude, impossible is nothing. It's about seeing the world of possibilities. Further defined, impossible nothing is a rebellious optimism rooted in the purpose from Adidas and the power of sports to change the world. And that's powerful. But before we can even talk about impossible, I think what's really cool is to talk about Daniel's career as a testament to impossible in his life journey. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and allow you to talk.
All right, so I'll start from the beginning, I guess. But you're right. I reflected on my journey over the past few months, because I went through some rocky periods. But to your point, I'm playing house money, because I never thought I'd be here. I lived the equivalent of first world problems, for sure. But I was born in a little small town in Northeast Ohio, about 22,000 people. And I promise I'd say it here, everyone's going to know it. It's called Alliance, Ohio. And our famous citizen next to me, I think, is Lenny Dawson, former Kansas City Chiefs quarterback who just passed away recently. But you're right. In my room, on my wall, I didn't know anything about vision boards, but I had a bunch of stuff. For those who love magazines and read, Ebony, Jet, Essence, there was a magazine back in the day called Upscale. And I could cut the pages out of Upscale and put all these people on the wall. The Will Smiths, the Diddy's, you name all the covers of these magazines. And, this many years later, I took my mother to the Ebony Power 100. I got nominated this year, so I went with her. And I sat next to Spike Lee and his wife. And he was on my vision board. And my mother knows that. She knows my work. And so she had that full circle moment, you actually did that's what you guys want to do. So anything after this is house money. So I eventually, to your point, made it out of a small town in Alliance. I came out the academy to a boarding school, played a little basketball.
Are you going to skip over Brooklyn?
No. That is where I'm staying. That is how everything begins and ends. So yes, proud Brooklynite. And there we go, New York. And then we went to the East Coast, went to Wharton Penn for college, with that guy back to you, right? I realized there that I was not going to do the things that everyone thought I was going to do, which is scary because Penn is not inexpensive, but I ended up graduating making less than my tuition, but because I followed my passion. And once I followed my passion, made that choice, every other choice after that was easy because I wasn't afraid of losing anything. I'm not afraid of getting fired. I'm not afraid of making a mistake. I'm not afraid of any person because I already made the hardest choices earlier in life. And that's the one piece of advice I have to let you. 2 shortcuts to being successful: find your passion young, fail fast. Because half of what we do is based on not trying to fail. Most companies fail by not trying to fail. They rather fail with the system than try to buck the system because they're afraid of killing their ego. Not actually the money, not getting laid off. It's all of our egos that gets hurt when we make a choice left and then have to suffer the consequences and not keep the job. I've never actually, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I'm not afraid of leaving companies because I don't believe that what you do should define who you are. You talk about my kids. Everybody knows I'm a proud girl dad. That if you look on LinkedIn profile, it's not say CMO, GM, it says father, son, right?
And older, right?
Literally. And that's what matters to me. So I'd say fail fast, find your passion young, and make sure that whatever you do is not what defines you. Because that can come and go at a moment's notice.
I think that's really powerful too, because a lot of times we think of careers as sort of being linear and kind of a stepping stone from one to another. So understanding what was the common thread that bound all of these places. The other one I forgot were comic books. So all of that culturally, important moments that now are defining what is culture and driving culture. That's kind of what would you say is the common thread between all of that aside from the passion you described?
I'm gonna give you a little secret fact. I studied my own career to decide why I make choices. It's all been intuition. Right? Humans have intuition, we don't listen to it enough. Right? I would recommend a book, The Expanded Mind. If you haven't read it, read it. We have more than 5 senses. Half of our senses come from the surroundings that we're in, which is actually, to me, culture. So I took my few from experiences I had in culture. And the one thing that defines my career is I craft my professional mission. My professional mission is to chase challenges and create positive change in culture. So everything that I did, I had to bring something back to the culture, leave the culture better than I found it. And me and my boys, we so text where we talk about big angels, little devils. So we have to make sure we live as big angels because the little devil pieces came from corporate America. It's profit driven, it's shareholders, right? It's meeting plan, right? So that's the little devil piece. You always have to perform and therefore outperform. As long as you do that, you have the ability to become a bigger angel. So as long as I'm successful commercially, I can create more impact culturally, and that's been the focus of my career, is to be a bigger angel than I am a little devil. And then on the nuance side of things, and I didn't learn this when I was younger, but I didn't take certain jobs. I never knew why I didn't take certain jobs, right? So you can imagine, I had to go all these brands and say, hey, come and do this, do that. And I never knew why I didn't take those jobs. But when I reflected on it, I realized that the cultural kind of impact that I have, from a purely commercial business standpoint, I have to work with brands with a certain margin. All the products that I've worked on have a minimum margin. Now, no one thinks about the career of it, but I've never worked with a brand that had lower than 20% margin. It's usually 30 plus. And I didn't know that until reflecting on my businesses and all the brands that I've been in. So I work best in higher margin businesses that have the ability to impact culture, because those brands usually spend more money in culture versus low margin brands who are dropping discounts and operating CPG, which is why when I went to quote unquote CPG, I went to Diageo. I didn't go to P&G. And I know Mark Richard, my guy, but I never worked with him. But that's because I studied what I did best. And there's a Japanese craftsman spirit, shikunin. I don't know if everyone has ever understood shikunin, right? It's a craftsman spirit, right? So it's about craftsmanship, right? Mastering your craft, whatever your craft is. And it's a philosophy of artisans. And I realized that I needed to figure out what my craftsman spirit was calling me to do. But I had no idea in commercial business why I chose the brands I chose, why I chose the careers I chose. But I'd ask you all to do an autopsy on your career choices, because it now makes it much easier for me when recruiters call to say yes or no. Because I actually have mastered what I did best. And I do a bunch of other things, but there's a lane I always want to take. No matter what the brand is, but that lane is going to be similar.
That's I mean, it's a gem, but I think part of life is understanding what you don't want as well, right? Not so much exactly what you want. You once also said that innovation is not a department, it's not a title or a process, but innovation is culture-based. And you said this while you were Chief Innovation Officer. Explain that a little bit.
Yes, you did your homework. It's true. I didn't even want to even have the term innovation in my title, because I believe that if you're not innovating, you're dead. Right? If you exist in corporate America and you don't have innovation in your DNA, then how am I going to win? Because whatever your plan was last year is old news. The status quo is a bad habit. That's what I firmly believe. So if the status quo is a bad habit, then you have to innovate or you die. And when you create innovation departments, somehow it's less about the process that gets you to new ideas, it becomes about the people with those titles. Back to that original point. It's not about what you do, it's about who you are. But people who think they are innovation somehow think they have a code to culture that everyone else doesn't have. But they see and know things that everyone else doesn't see and know, which is not true. Right? So I'll give you an example of that. And for everybody who worked at Motorola, I apologize for using Motorola as an example here. But Motorola has an innovation department, right? Motorola, of course to this day, Motorola built the Razr, which many of us at one point in time had the phone. It was the iPhone before the iPhone, right? It was everything. But you also probably didn't know that Motorola was the company that powered the call to the moon. So back to Verizon, can you hear me now? And you had a mobile phone company that made a phone call, the most famous phone call in history, to the moon. And I once asked people in Schaumburg at Motorola, did you know about that? About only 12% of employees knew that that was their DNA. And I told the guy at the time that was running the company, you know, no one here knows why they're here. Only 12% of your company knew about that. And again, the innovation department, they made the Razr. What's the next major Razr they made? Samsung just launched a flip phone. Because the guy that did the Razr probably got stolen to Apple. Because it's about a person and not a culture. It was a department and not your DNA, and you're dead. And so to me, I'm very wary of companies who have a very siloed place that is about the next. That's everyone's job.
Switching and then jumping off on innovation, kind of transitioning to Adidas, to say that Adidas sits at the forefront of innovation in the space is an understatement. I'd love to talk about some of the innovations that Adidas has undertaken, but with a purpose. I think we actually have a couple of clips that I submitted that kind of speak to that, which is a little bit of a surprising fact because I really didn't know the involvement in Wakanda Forever and specifically what was being highlighted in terms of Adidas and design as well.
For sure. Hey, am I popping for video or not? Tell me what I'm doing.
Do you have the video that you can roll?
You do? I'm looking at this guy, he says yes. Okay. So should I?
I collaborated with Adidas and C to create these original looks for Black Panther to come forever. The creatives like C were so instrumental in innovating these wearable Adidas art pieces. We designed the tracksuit for sure. We wanted it to be the royal color purple. It had a slim shape to the back, so when she's riding her motorcycle, the jacket would blow behind her in the back. We needed a costume for our lab techs. We used this clear white fabric that felt like a different kind of a fiber. What does it feel good? There was a lot of thought put into the Adidas shoe that Shuri would wear. There's this open center part on the heel that gives you a little buoyancy. They're innovative and fresh. And I felt like it really did describe her. And it was exciting to talk about new technology with these young minds.
Well, this is brilliant.
We started out with prototypes. The challenge is getting them into production and back to us. We have a saying in Pascal Land that one is none. We needed multiple duplicates of the same piece in order to get through a lot of the stunt sequences and things that Shuri would need. There was a very tight time schedule that the Adidas team and C had to meet. And that wasn't easy because a lot of the technology that was used does take time to produce.
Everyone seems to be working diligently. Yes.
Programs like SEED really do inspire the next generation of creators, and I can't wait to see the reaction to the outfits we created together, and I can't wait to see what you will comment for them.
Yes.
Now, the most important part about that video is that all those pieces were done by BIPOC, black and brown, female designers. That is the most important piece, which is power. And bringing back to the point of innovation, you mentioned kind of how the brand innovated. Honestly, the West Bay brand's innovated is to allow voices that were not in the room the power to create the world they see. Because most brands, whether you like it or not, are operating in a mirror versus a window world. If you focus on research, that means you're inherently talking about the past. So you're already in the rearview mirror. And most companies talk about past success, trying to best past success, fiscal success, the big campaign, the Super Bowl spots, you're already talking about the past. And that's a mirror. And if all you have are people who look like you in that mirror, you want to create more for those people in the mirror versus the window. And very few brands actually literally have windows in their office, which is a problem, and have time to see the world beyond that border. And the more you are able and courageous enough to bring more people outside of that room, in that room, the people you see in that window into the company, the more innovative, the more profitable, the more creative, the more powerful I think the brand will be. And that to me is my focus by being in the chair.
And that makes a ton of sense. And I think one of the things that Daniel talked about was the focus on Black women literally doing the designs, right? And I think that's amazing in the sense that what the work that we do at TeamSnap is really about access and diversity as well as giving back. We want to be able to support women, typically young women, as it relates to sport. And I know sport played a huge role in your life growing up, and it continues to play a great role in your life. I remember you, in one interview, you said you're not even the best athlete in your immediate family.
No. My sister, phenomenal D1 athlete. My father was a great basketball player. But my better half, my wife, to your point, my wife ran track in Syracuse. And I'm not going to tell her age, but she ran track a while ago. And she still holds the 800 meter record at Syracuse. And so when we were dating, I'm like, I played ball, I did some stuff in college, and she's from Toronto. So lovely Canadian, love Canadians. So very lovely Canadian. West Indian, right? Jamaican, Austrian, crazy mix.
Nice. That happens
They're
a lot.
Canadian,
Yeah.
it's especially up there. So long story short, we're driving to Toronto when I'm dating her to see her family for the first time. We stop off at Syracuse, right on the way to Toronto. She wants to see her old college professors and the sports information director. We'll go stop off at Syracuse. We get there, and I kid you not, in the practice facility, there's a massive picture of Donovan McNabb, Marvin Harrison, NFL players, and over here is my wife. I'm like, oh, you didn't tell me that you were that.
You already showed me.
She knew. She knew. She played cool. But no, definitely not the best athlete in the family. I'm a proud girl dad. So I love the fact that my girls sweat. But they're not afraid to sweat. I believe that the power of sweat, especially for young women, because I never even thought about the need to be aggressive in life. As a young black man in America, I gotta fight to survive. I didn't think about the unique position that a young black woman is in and the invisibility cloak that they live in out of survival until I saw my kids. And my daughter, the eldest, was playing tennis, and she was too scared to be aggressive in tennis based on the perception at like 8 or 9 of an aggressive black. But she also saw what they did to screen. So she was afraid to serve it too hard, afraid to grunt too loud. So she literally muted her game to conform. Now, excuse my French, I had to have a big fuck that moment with her. Like, that's not how we did that. But giving her the comfort and the security as a father to be her true self at all times is the best thing that, right? I could have done that in life. Like, nothing I did on LinkedIn matters more than that. And it's critically important. I think we as leaders in media have a voice and a responsibility to encourage culture to be its best self versus doing candidly what I lived through, which is basically some cultural rubbernecking, right? Right, when you see cultural car crashes, and long as it's clickbait, and long as the eyeballs are there, you feed the machine and you keep it moving. But what we feed that machine can either heal us or hurt us. And my biggest fear is that because we're in this media age of focus or attention, that we'll do anything that creates attention. And so many brands, I'm like a bad kid knocking a class that is seeking attention. They really just need a hub, right? They don't need a bigger marketing budget. And so my ask to all of you is to make sure we figure out what we're feeding this attention economy, because it really, really matters. And we're highly responsible for it.
Absolutely. How are we doing on time, by the way? Good. Awesome. And the reason I mentioned the sport thing to tie it back is the fact that the degree and the level of confidence that we see it create to achieve, later on in life. There's a statistic that says by 14, many girls are dropping out of sport, literally 2 times the rate of boys. And largely it's because they feel like maybe they don't feel feminine enough, they don't feel like they're prepared. Sometimes it's an access point. And that's so important because when you actually look at female executives and female CEOs, 90% of them participate in sports. That's not a coincidence. Whether you are doing anything active or you're doing something as far as like literally playing for a club or you play in college, it's so important. And I've seen personally Adidas embrace that. Really quick story, I was upstate in a shopping mall. This little boy comes in, he looks at a pair of sneakers, he's like, Mom, I want that one. So my 14-year-old son is with me, and I'm like, well, what shoes are those? He's like, oh, those are the campus partners. And he, 14-year-old, little smart aleck, he's basically kind of like, I thought he was criticizing people for buying campus partners. He's criticizing him because the colorway wasn't cool enough. So I've seen it come full circle where a black woman athlete has a sneaker that's been admired by a young white boy. And that's pushing that part of culture. And as a father of 3, and an 11-year-old daughter, it's so important to see these things represented.
Well, it's true. The reality is the middle is what muddles everything. Middle management's prints. You know, when I say that, I mean the fear attached to not having the authority to make a call and having the responsibility to deliver. And in athletics, the same thing. In the middle, the guys that sit on the couch that think they know better, that think they can beat a WNBA athlete in a one-on-one game basketball or Adidas. But they're the ones holding, right, culture back a lot of times. And oftentimes brands cater to those people. And so we're holding culture back as a result. But the elite athletes, the athletes that I work with, they know how amazing Campus Park is. Because greatness knows greatness. And the same amount of work that an elite male athlete put in, a female athlete puts in, but oftentimes more. Because to your point, they're under-resourced. They don't have all the skills. Something you might have seen, if you haven't, preseason NCAA women's basketball tournaments. They have these showcases. The men go to Hawaii, they go to Alaska, they go to Vegas, and these amazing tournaments. NCAA women's basketball tournament was in a ballroom in a hotel. Research this, go look at it. They were playing basketball on a carpeted floor with a parquet floor on top in a ballroom, which is the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen. But again, we don't talk about that. That is ridiculous based on the amount of money that sports brings into college. They still disrespect women that way in a post-Title IX environment. Those things outrage me as a father of daughters. And as media, we can't let brands hold them accountable. Because candidly, in marketing, we're basically the biggest union in the country. We control the image and the stories that are told. There's a lot of union busting going on in the world. We're a post-industrial economy, but we as white-collar, skilled artisans who tell stories have a large responsibility to make sure that things that are happening in culture that are not up to par, they're not okay, we can't let that shit slide. We cannot. And we have a bit more power as a group than we do as individuals because everyone has a job, we have lives, I get it. I'm not gonna fall on every sword. But as a community, we can actually raise, I think, a lot more hell certain times when we need to. Because that's the power, I think, of story.
So I don't know about you all, but I feel a lot better. So you can go ahead and add motivational speakers here. I'm gonna need a couple more pages in there. But how do you feel about taking a couple of questions from the crowd? Is some time for that?
Sure.
Maybe that's time.
We do? Okay.
When we met last night, you showed me a pair of sneakers that your team got you that you're very proud of and said servant leader on them.
Yes.
Can you tell us, as a leader, what are some like behaviors you exhibit, you consciously think about when you engage your team and lead them, inspired such love and pride?
I appreciate it. Yeah, you're right. So my team, given everything I've gone through, got me a pair of superstars, but as New Yorker, shell toes. And they wrote, to your point, servant leader on it. Because that's something that I said to them when I first met them. Is that my job as a leader is to serve you. And I really meant that. And I think they all know that, which is why I showed up every day during all this nonsense that I was dealing with. But there's a sense of humility, right? I learned that from my grandmother, right? In that little town called Alliance, where you serve the community. And in corporate America, my community is my team and the culture that I come from that we can be profiting from, whether it be directly or indirectly. And so my job is to serve them. And whenever I'm in a culture, corporate culture, that I feel like is disserving the community or doing something that I don't feel right about, every day when I work is a choice. Sometimes I choose to leave because I don't feel good about that. It can't affect the kind of change that I want. But as a leader, my job is I told the team two things: spotlight and Kevlar. Spotlight, when something goes right, it's my team. Kevlar, I take all the bullets when something goes wrong. So you have to de-risk the environment. That's how you create trust and followership. It's like de-risk it. I'm okay with whatever happens. If we agree that this is the move we're making, it doesn't work out, that's what I mean. If we agree that it works out, like this video, I'll give all the credit to the team because I sit in this seat. I'm okay. I want my team to be in my seat as fast as possible. That's what leadership wants. Many of us get scared and hold on to our position. I want to get any one of you in my seat as fast as humanly possible. And I think that's what leaders should do, is create a condition for your team's success at all costs. At all costs.
Hi, Alicia, my co-media. As we're kind of closing out 2022, what are you looking forward to for 2023?
I appreciate that question. 2023 is going to be tough. So we need to make sure that we stay resilient, because we're not out of the woods yet. We are going to be seeing it post, holiday. But what I'm actually most excited about is, because we're going through a tough time, the creativity that will come out of this environment. Because necessity is going to dictate people do things differently. And people will either duck their head in the sand out of fear or rise up. And usually, the people who rise up have nothing to lose. And that to me is where change happens. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see what happens coming out of this time, where the playbook that we had isn't working nearly as well as it used to. And we got to think differently. And I'm excited to see the companies that embrace that, because there's many that won't. But I'm excited to see the new brands. And I'm also excited to see makers. I believe that, and we're looking at art, right? We're looking at creators. So many people in corporate America, not even advertising, right? I started in advertising. Now advertising, many people who know, advertisers, as agencies, don't have production companies. We don't make shit, we make shit up. And we hire other people to make it. I'm so excited for the people who make it to take the center stage. I care about people who create. I tell my daughter, don't critique, create. It's hard as hell to make something, and most of us just make shit up. So I want people who make something to make more things, and for us to support them and get out of their way. And so hopefully we do more of that.